So last night I just finished up all 4 episodes of Marvel Animation's new limited series Eyes of Wakanda on Disney Plus. And to be honest, I thought it was just okay. I didn't think it was anything awful. I didn't think it was anything great. It just felt like a very okay, safe project for Marvel. Animation-wise, I'm not a big animation stickler. I was just kind of lukewarm on how it all looked for me. There was some stuff that looked really good, and there was some stuff, especially some faces in a couple episodes, that didn't look fully rendered all the way. But again, I'm not a big animation stickler. Plot-wise, it follows the Wakandan War Dogs. If you don't know who the Wakanda War Dogs are, it's essentially Wakanda's CIA Black Ops organization. A bunch of people placed all over the globe tasked with hiding Wakanda's secrets and protecting their interests. Probably the most famous war dog that most people recognize is Nakia, who they were first introduced in Black Panther, and then see her again in Wakanda Forever, and who actually eventually has T'Challa's son at the end of it in the end credit. Story-wise, it's an anthology series over 4 different time periods following 4 different war dogs traveling to try to recover these lost artifacts and bring it back to Wakanda. And there's a little bit of loose interconnectivity throughout the episodes as they progress, and it eventually does culminate in a final episode that does have a story plot that does eventually connect the whole series together. One little minor gripe with it though is that because that they did decide to make this show MCU canon, they kind of changed the definition of time travel in the 4th episode that doesn't match up with how they explained it in Infinity War. So there is a little bit of a plot hole there unless I'm missing something in how they explained it in the show. And one thing that's probably unfairly hurting this show for me is I'm comparing it to Predator Killer of Killers, which is another recent Disney IP production that released on Hulu, because I thought they did a really good job with how they did their anthology series with creating it into a movie and connecting it way better as it progressed, and then eventually having it culminate in a final kind of 3rd act with all of the stories into one, and then progressing it into a future potential project going forward. I'm just not sure this project had a strong enough storyline to warrant giving it a 4-episode series, and that could just be that this was a byproduct of the quantity over quality era for Disney and Marvel. I'm not entirely sure about that. If it was, my gut feeling is that it is. And one thing that also doesn't help it as well, I kind of use my wife as a gauge of interest on superhero movies and shows. She's a big fan of Marvel. She usually loves everything Marvel, but by the end of this series, she was pretty bored with it, if I'm being honest. And not that I was bored with it by the end, but it wasn't that different from my experience. Again, I wasn't necessarily blown away with anything in this. Didn't find anything awful. There's just nothing in me that necessarily wants to go back and revisit this. I think this one needed to stay in the writing kitchen a little bit longer to cook up the overarching story connecting it all, making that a little bit stronger, connecting them a little bit more through the other anthology episodes, and then turn it into the film route like Predator Killers of Killers did, or they needed to expand this into a much longer series. But all in all, I'd probably give it somewhere between a 5 and a 6 out of 10. A serviceable Marvel Animation outing, but I don't think I'm going to revisit again in the future.